The 442nd Regimental Combat Team. Narrated by Sasha Maggio. I have not covered the treatment of Japanese Americans to this point in my series, only because I won't be able to cover the topic in depth, and I would rather not cover it at all than to gloss over the relocation and camps and all. But I can talk about this unit. On 1 February 1943, in accordance with orders issued a week and a half prior, the 442nd Regimental Combat Team was activated at Headquarters 3rd Army. This special unit was comprised of second-generation Japanese-American soldiers, many from Hawaii, who volunteered to fight for the United States and Allies in World War II. There was already a Hawaii unit formed in June 1942, initially as the Hawaiian Provisional Infantry Battalion, which would become the 100th Infantry Battalion. This battalion was also Nisei, second-generation Japanese Americans. The 100th trained initially at Camp McCoy in Wisconsin, after being shipped from Hawaii in secret. They will later join the 442nd Infantry Regiment. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, Japanese-American men were excluded from the draft with a special classification of 4C, enemy alien, even though they were American citizens. In February 1942, Executive Order 9066 set the grounds for interning many Japanese Americans. Hawaii was a little different. Martial law was declared and the islanders dealt with curfews and blackouts. But since the population of Hawaii was largely of Japanese descent, relocation to internment camps was impractical. There were a couple Hawaii National Guard units that were kept in service, with some 1,300 Japanese American soldiers. These men were reorganized in the summer of 1942 and secretly shipped to the mainland for training and reorganization into the 100th Infantry Battalion. At the end of January 1943, an order was issued that would create 3 components to comprise a Japanese-American combat team, thereby allowing these men to serve their country, but still justifying their segregation and limitations as necessary for security. These units could not have any Japanese-American field grade officers, major, lieutenant colonel, or captains, all of whom would be white officers. Colonel Charles Pence was placed in command of the 442nd Infantry Regiment. In order to volunteer, all Nisei had to answer questions regarding loyalty, including questions such as, are you willing to serve in the armed forces of the United States on combat duty wherever ordered? And will you swear unqualified allegiance to the United States of America and faithfully defend the U.S. from any or all attack by foreign or domestic forces, and forswear any form of allegiance or obedience to the Japanese Emperor or any other foreign government, power, or organization? About 25% answered no, not because they had any allegiance to Japan, but because they were American-born men who happened to be of Japanese descent, and they resented being asked a question that implied they would turn against their country. About 10,000 men from Hawaii signed up to volunteer, but the U.S. Army had only requested 1,500 from Hawaii. Volunteers from the mainland were fewer than requested, however, so the Army adjusted the 1,500 to almost 3,000 from Hawaii. Along with about 800 Japanese-American volunteers from the mainland, these men formed the new 442nd Infantry Regiment, or the 442nd Regimental Combat Team. The draft will be adjusted later to include Japanese Americans, and by the end of World War II, over 10,000 will have served with the 442nd alone. When announcing this new unit, the 442nd Regimental Combat Team, FDR said, Americanism is not and never was a matter of race or ancestry. Despite this, and no matter what type of loyalty these men swore to, they were prohibited from serving in the Pacific Theater. Since the 442nd Infantry doesn't deploy to Europe until 1944, we will pause their story here. But there is more to tell of the regiment that will become the U.S. military's most decorated in history. Thank you for joining me today. The references included in the Twitter thread presented here are linked below in the description. If you are a fan of this content, please consider subscribing to my accounts on any or all platforms, as that helps me know the content is worth the effort. And stick around, this might be the best series yet.